At this time, I'd like to call on Sister Valley Stearns, who was in the lockup. Valley, are you...
Hello everybody, my name is Valley Stearns and I'm the chair of the Coalition for Pay Equity for New Brunswick. Je suis Valley Stearns, je suis la présidente de la Coalition pour l'équité salariale du Nouveau-Brunswick. And I want to speak to you a little bit about pay equity today because the government, you may have heard, made an announcement of $6.4 million for pay equity for women, and they called it a strategic investment. So that's the part where I agree with them. It is a strategic investment to give pay equity for women in New Brunswick, but I don't agree with the amount. $6.4 million. If you think about the thousands of women who are waiting for pay equity, who've been waiting for decades, you could even say we've been waiting for hundreds of years. $6.4 million means what? An extra Tim Hortons coffee a day? That doesn't seem to me to equal pay equity. So some of you may be wondering, what is pay equity? And when I talk to people about pay equity, sometimes people are like, well, what is that? And I don't blame us for not knowing what pay equity is because we haven't seen it, ever. But pay equity is countering discrimination in our salaries for women. It's comparing female and male jobs and paying women's jobs what they're worth. And in order to measure that, you have to measure that using job evaluations. Now, we got a law, the Pay Equity Act of 2009 for the public sector, and we've been trying to get job evaluations done for women in New Brunswick in the public sector for the last 2 years. But we've seen nothing but delays. The government hasn't put in the resources, they haven't set up the Pay Equity Bureau, they haven't put the people in place to meet with us. We're still waiting for the job evaluations to be finished. Under the framework of the law, we should have seen pay equity adjustments starting in April 1st, but obviously that's not going to happen. So what we're afraid of is that all of these delays will mean that justice will be delayed because there's been no promise of retroactive pay adjustments for women. But if we did have pay equity, it would be a strategic investment for women. It would be good for our paychecks. It would be good for the food we could put on the table. It would be good for our children and our families. It would be good for the spending in our local businesses, and it would be good for our income taxes, which pay for public services. Most of all, pay equity would be good for our self-respect. We want money on the table, but we also want respect too. So we don't agree with that amount. $6.4 million is a drop in the bucket. It's crumbs on our table. It's not bread. And what about all of those thousands of women who work outside of the public sector? Do they get pay equity? Well, there's no law in place for them. But the government decided to do a job evaluation process for women who work in childcare, home support, shelters for women, and group homes. And they promised us results. We haven't seen them yet. But we're told that they may get some pay adjustments starting this year. Well, we want to see the report. We want to know if those pay adjustments are based on pay equity or not. And somehow I think that $6.4 million really doesn't cut it. So it's time for pay equity. It's time for pay equity now. It's time to invest in women. And it's time to guarantee a full human rights in our paychecks for the women and also the men who work in female jobs. So we want to see the money and we want to see the figures.